So, bull everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Nice. Don't bull may kadavu. Rong Vinaka na naruto sere na wangan roka ni sangani na sere na liwavi au na toka lau. Wambulu sar chuku vikim ni keda na yacani na sarawak turango kantavu. Ni taka ni bulu Vinaka tiko na vivonua o ni siama tiko mikina na sigini kuwa vikim ni tiko minjal ni avu. Waktu lo sa kayani bikim ni to sar na liwa na tikina en sana bakaturango kantavu. En kami na kanisikin ni kuwa kero sa may dambit ti Kongo kero na vite vini manitikin na bakaturango Yawe may Valentine Day nga kero marota kasara ni kero may tikubunan na iwasi-wasi ni Veitalanoa en YASANA O KADAVU en hula i Senindrala sena hula i kau-kau sena kenaran bakapaperta niya na hula hokusita kena ngonongo menda na wakang bulan sarkin bina nando bulangi to kai bulangi to ke klain bugo bikim nyo ni sare na na kani tukutuku e na ivola mata e na nona ngwali tuku mana ngone leongo me mai wasia mana nga weekend e so na nona vakavaka na tumbu dake mai kina dona tambani bisinisi ate vutaka na ngone leongo maro tak sarvalevu ni bando ni okwaya me ngole mai me kiro mi Veitalanoa maro tak vakalevu ni tak ni bunga bikem ni me na korna NAQALOTU mai Yawe mai kadavu ni na vakarong tiku meni povir keda na ni tokani so vira ngora siam sar tiku mo Australia me New Zealand vakatalan kene me Amerika kena vivo no telesona visi burbura ia vakambimbitik na vikenda na vio kano ni tiku mai video klana vida na vula sa utingo and stava tiku vida na rendre na vuku ni tu mate na COVID-19 kadiwa ia and kani marau ni ama Yawe sona bibisa me paleta nganang gito may chavane ia krona kay vital no kina kena talingungo ia menta vakambula saravua bulu Vinaka Talei.
Bulu Vinaka Tavisi.
Isa.
Bulu Kai, it's good to be on the program.
Isa Vinaka vakalevu. Thank you so much for availing yourself from your busy schedule. I understand, Talei, that you're working from home and especially during this pandemic. And I'm just so happy that you're able to come on my program and just do a short talanoa with me and with our audience. Eh? So to kickstart our talanoa, Talei, if you can just introduce yourself to us. Na Nomukoro, Kornivasu, and where you were raised back in Fiji.
Sure. Isang bulu Vinaka na zango Talei Tora. On ni NAQALOTU Yawe kadavu awasai. Yeah, so as we say in Kandavu, I'm a true blood. I was brought up in Suva. So I was on a caregiver. So
Kurilenga.
an elder sister Francis and an elder sister Lisa. And but we've lived our whole life in Suva. And I went at St. Anne's and St. Joseph's and also did my education here at the University of the South Pacific. And then I decided to join the RFMF, which I spent 13 years. So as they say, join the army and see the world. So I did 3 missions while I was in the military. I toured in Timor-Leste, Sinai, and Iraq. I was very fortunate to be one of the first ladies to tour Iraq in 2004 under the Matai, or the 1st Battalion Fiji Infantry Regiment. I currently work as a communications manager with an Australian aid program called the Fiji Program Support Facility. So my education and background is in comms or communications journalism. So I started off as a journalist very early in the day. But I'm currently very fortunate to be seconded to the Ministry of Health as a comms advisor to the IMT Risk Comms team, where I provide support to the comms team for the daily messaging that we see on social media and in the media. And that's me, Kai. I'm not married. I'm in a relationship with a wonderful woman from Yazata. And we have 5 dogs and just recently lost our cat that we've had for over 15 years. And that's me in a nutshell, Kai. Vinaka.
So Vinaka. I think I missed out a little bit about your mom. I think the internet dropped down a little bit there. Just tell us a little bit about mom, your Kornivas.
Sure. So eu vasui lawaki nakaseleka, also in Kadavu, and my mom is Avula Kovaki. She and both my father, both from Kadavu. So my mom is Vasu Taviuni, and also they also grew up in Suva. My mother was a broadcaster by trade, and the older generation, or even people my age, I'm old now, would remember her on Radio Fiji, and then Gold Fiji, Radio Fiji Gold, and she was also the quiz mistress for years, or Mother Tora, um, at Radio Fiji, and yeah, so that's I think my love for journalism and that kind of radio work, television work stemmed from having grown up at Broadcasting House, like from when the time my mom worked there. So and unfortunately, both my parents have passed away, and I currently live in our family home in Nesese, um, Nakakai.
So Vinaka. And, speaking of your mom, and I've had the opportunity to, be in the studio with her at the radio station, especially when I was doing work with Fiji Museum. And I'm just in awe, of her presence and her voice and just what she does. She's so natural and so good at what she does. Now, what is your kind of memory of her, maybe, in her radio work that stuck with you? Because I knew that both you and Luisa have that kind of sort of lean towards journalism. Any memories of mom?
Oh, absolutely. She it wasn't like my mom was just fun, and we had a more of a best friend relationship than we did a mother-daughter relationship, and a lot of the way we both, my sisters and I, speak right now is because of that upbringing, um, and with a certain generation in Fiji, particularly, I think my parents were hippies. That education is really important, and particularly the command of the English language. Um, um, I did not grow up speaking Fijian. It's
Mm,
something that, while we understand fluently, we just weren't required to respond in Fijian. It's not
mm,
something I'm proud of. And as you know, as a subsection of within our community, sometimes us Susumandrai looked down upon. But we are very much involved in village activities and all the fundraisings. And when you come of age, when it's your turn to soli, you have the soli. And it's something that I've taken on that since my father has passed away, and I'm the only one in Fiji. I'm sorry, in Suva. But with my mom, back to my mom. So um, she was somebody that you could say, like, when she walked in, she brought a ray of sunshine, and that's what she's remembered for. She had a really big heart. Her cooking was really famous as well. She was really famous for her cooking and for hosting. We had a lot of friends and family and functions and parties and get-togethers and family occasions and friends over, and people would remember my mom just commanding this presence in our house and in the kitchen. And she had that same knack when she spoke to people over the radio, and people in particular looked forward to when they had an outside broadcast, particularly at the caravan that would be at Hibiscus, and then they would put a face to the name. Yes. Yeah, and then towards before she retired from FBC, she was the quiz mistress. So then it was really amazing that when I went to USB, I met a lot of quiz kids. I was a quiz kid myself, for St. Joseph's, and she actually unfortunately had to step aside that year because I was on the St. Joseph's quiz team, and we made it all the way through to the finals. Um, but I met a lot of people along the way. They were like, wait, your mom was Mother Tora? Like, I was on the quiz team and she came to Tavuni, and like, oh my God, like we took photos with her, and like I have a photo of her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like to us that was our mom. And yeah, and so when she passed away, it was just she passed away at USP. She became a housing officer later on in life, and we were just overwhelmed with the support, particularly from all walks of life. She played darts, and so her darts club came, and her former FBC colleagues came. She was also on the board of FCOS. They came, and then the USP Students Association, who didn't come as a group, they came in their different cultural groups. The Fijian students on their own, and to tell us that she would take food and feed them. And I used to think, how did she feed you when she just had a lunchbox? But that was my mom. They said if they came back drunk from the nightclub, she'd pay their taxi fare. And I was like, she never paid my taxi fare if I came back from the nightclub. But yeah, so we were really, really blessed, Tarisi. You know, she left a massive impact on both Luis and I's life and my sisters. And it's sometimes I take a step back because I've been told over the years that um, and it's really like something like I don't take lightly that the way I speak, I sound like my mom, or the way I act in my certain mannerisms. Yeah, so it was a real honor to have a mother like that, and but God had better plans for her, and you know um, we all hold on to faith and the promise of salvation because we have to meet again. We will meet again one day up there. That's for sure, Kai. Vinaka.
Vinaka, Vinaka. Yeah, and it's just so wonderful, to hear about your mom, and of course, your dad. Is always there's like that quiet presence, and I was so blessed
Mm.
to have met him too. And also when I moved to Brisbane, I got to meet your Nay, Sydney
Mm.
Damari.
Mhm.
So again, it's just like another family connection. So just tell me something, a memory about your dad.
My dad was the he didn't speak much, but you'd be surprised that actually our journalism side actually would more so come from him. Like he actually was recommended by his teacher when he went to RSMS to take up a cadetship at Fiji Times because he wanted to be a journalist. Um, but they
Yeah.
took one look at this black boy from Boa and didn't think that he should have been in that cadetship, and he never got it. So he ended up um, because they were my dad's family are Assemblies of God, and so he grew up in the church band, and he ended up just being a band boy. Yeah, and that took him through to being a band boy at the Tavuni Travelodge, I think, or it was the Trade Winds, I think it was, and then eventually got into a cadetship to be a hotel manager, and then so this band boy ended up being the first local manager of the Travelodge group in Fiji. And so Luisa was brought up at the Hot Springs Hotel in Sabsav, and I was brought up in Tavuni. In my early life, as my parents were the managers of Tavuni Travelodge. So my dad was, uh, like once my mom spoke on the English radio station, my dad also spoke English at home, his family. So you would have met my neighbor Marian. She's an English speaker as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
and that's because they belonged to what you might term as an American church, and they spoke English at that point in time. So both my grandfather had died the year I was born, but my grandmother was a staff nurse at Toomey Hospital, and we were only spoken to in English from both my father's side and also my mom's side. So he was a quiet man, but he was also really good fun. And my best memory of my father is he he supports everything that we did. He was a big believer in education, and if I said that I wanted to take a gap year or I wanted to do something like that, he would always trust our judgment. And he has this one saying, and Luis and I still do it today. Like she wrote to me because she's taking on a residency soon in Christchurch for Vengia, right? Yeah. And she says, "Just remind me what Daddy used to say." I used to say, he used to say, "Cover your chest and eat your vegetables." Whatever we did or wherever we went, those two things, and it's so true. If you don't cover your chest now, and hence I've got a bit of a cold.
Oh.
No, it's not COVID. It's because I've been walking around in a vest and the weather's changed. But yeah, he was uh, they were two peas in a pod, my parents, on different spectrums, but there was something about them. They used to still waltz, but like they weren't old, but when you're children and you think, oh my goodness, look at them, they're waltzing in the kitchen, and they'd have a kiss and a cuddle, and I'd be like, oh, especially if my friends are there, like, gosh, you're so embarrassing. And my mom said something that really resonates with me now. It's like, you just hope when you're our age, you're still in love. I said, like, absolutely. That's what you want, that you. But yeah, they were beautiful. They were hippies, and they had an idea of how they wanted to bring us up, and I know that the person that I've turned out to be, the person Luis has turned out to be, they'd be really, really proud of us, and just know that they instilled core values of family, of friends, of honesty, of faith, and yeah, I really hope that what we're doing is making them proud. Yeah, Vinaka kai.
Yes, Vinaka, Vinaka. That's beautiful. Beautiful tribute to your beautiful parents and the upbringing and the teachings that they shared with you. You still remember it today, right? So eat your vegetables. So I will remind Luisa to make sure she eats lots of vegetables when she's in Christchurch, and cover her chest as well. Keep warm. Vinaka, Vinaka. Yes. So I was thinking before the Talanoa started, I was, thinking of you about the Fijiana game recently, and I think I watched some of your videos when you guys were cheering and all those, emotions that was coming through. What was going on in your mind when the game was going, particularly going through the pool games and reaching the level where they eventually reached. What would you like to say about the Fijiana team, Kai?
I just think it's absolutely just absolutely amazing. I actually had no doubt. We are a proud family of that supports Fijiana. Um, I I kind of donned the Fijiana jersey for a one-off game against the Samoa New Zealanders when they came, but that was for rugby 15th when I thought I could play
Ah,
rugby. And our housemate and our best friend or Eva,
Eva.
my Naita, she was a former Fijiana captain, and so Eva still plays club, and so we are very involved as a family um, in women's rugby, and just to know the struggles that these girls have gone through, it's been as hard as the boys, and then you double that, um, and and then to have the pandemic on top of that, and so for us as a family, we had no doubt that they would make it through this. The way they prepared and the way they played in the Townsville was just, I think, a tip of the iceberg of what they were able to do. And and kudos to Fiji Rugby Union as well for having the foresight to put in Sayasi Fuli. He took them draw to where they are, and he did it with the girl, and they went with one goal, and that was to get the gold medal. They weren't going to settle for bronze. Um,
Wow.
I have my opinions about, and so does the whole of Fiji, about how that New Zealand game went, but it was obvious that they were the better team. Congratulations to New Zealand. Absolutely. They played brilliant rugby, and as they always do, but that was one heck of a tussle. And some very unfortunate non-calls didn't bring the ball in our favor, but the whole world saw what if you give a Fijian woman a chance, she can take over the world. And I think that's what they've done. They've represented us as Fijian women and the struggles that we go through for representation, and they represent Pacific women and the struggles that we go through for representation in this world. And so, they always say, where being a woman has its limitations because of all the sexist bias in the world, and then being a brown woman is double. And these
Yes.
13 brown women and their brown coaches with our brown men's team have just dominated world rugby at the Olympics, and it's the highest stage. And I thank them for it, and the repercussions of this for other young girls that now look up to them and that want to play. And I just hope that this then resonates to more support for them, for their club games in terms of sponsorship, because it's quite unfortunate. Um, True, COVID happened, but they weren't able to start off the new season because FRU wasn't able to secure a sponsor for the start of what was the Skipper Cup Challenge last year for the women's competition. And I know times are hard right now, but if businesses are, going to want to be sponsoring these competitions, and then this then will filter in through to sponsoring the high school competitions, to then the primary school competitions. It's like come Paris, gold is ours. Like, and it's and any other sport our girls can do. And I think it's just what they've done is they've created history, but they've created pathways for more of this exposure for our Fijian women, and that's absolutely beautiful. Vinaka.
Yes, Vinaka. Interesting that you brought up the topic of sponsorship, and support for our Fijiana team. What would be your, sort of your vision or something that you would like to see change in terms of the support for Fijiana, leading up to the next Olympics? Do you have any wish list? Maybe just give two, if you have something that could maybe, just create a change and to have more support given to them.
I think sponsorship is one aspect of it, because then that means that the girls have more playing time because they can have regular competitions. But I think it has to be structural, like it's got to start from an early age. Sayasi Fully, Fijiana coach, said so himself, like some of these girls were playing soccer and then just a year ago touched a rugby ball, and then he had to start from the basics. Like, so if we started from the basics, say in primary school, so these young girls will then start growing up. And I think if there's these competitions happening, and I know Vela Nauzakindi, who's the Fijiana manager and also the women's I think development officer at FIU, she has this plan. It's always been one of her wishes, and I think it's happening now, that it's going to be happening at high school level. But if it was to be taken down further and then further across to the grassroots level, we'd see these girls coming up when they're 9, 10 years old, and then they have this career path, that it's not later on in their life that they become Fijianas, Fijiana representatives. It's a career path. Either they go through 15s or they go through 7s. And then, and so we used to back in the day have the Fiji Women's Rugby Union. And it was the executive body made up of all the affiliate clubs, the women's clubs in Suva and the Western Division. And it was then an affiliate to the Fiji Rugby Union. I was secretary at one time. So I played for QVS Women's Rugby Club then. And Vela, who is now the manager, she was the president. And at that time, Kenin Dakwindaketi was the CEO. There were massive challenges. There was no regular competitions. Fijiana weren't even on the World Series or even going all the time to play at the Oceania level. And so, there has to be structural change, I believe. I think sponsorship is just one component. But it would be great even if that was to happen, because then they'll have regular. But I think it needs to be like a support for a whole system change that for FRU and or for FWRU to make this happen. Okay, thank you.
Vinaka, vakalevu. This is great, and I think there needs to be that more discussions like this, to offer that support. And I know with the win, even though it was bronze, it's going to create a lot of change, and that's something really, really positive for them. So we can look forward to the next Olympics in Paris. I know there will be a lot of pom-pom girls, a lot of cheering squad will be going to Paris after COVID.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So and speaking of sponsorship and business, I know in the last couple of months when you were talking about for you to come on my program, I was very excited to see your business venture. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So just towards the end of last year, I started a company earlier in the year, but didn't actually, because I have a day job. And so, when you run a small business, you kind of need to focus 100%. But
Yes.
I launched a ginger beer company. And it's called the company is called Talei Tora Enterprises. And somebody asked me, Talei Tora. I was like, of course I was going to name the business after myself. No, I'm not vain, but and then the ginger beer is called Ginger Lay. We thought it had a nice ringtone, like a ring to it. And so we've launched a business called Ginger Lay, and we were really fortunate to be invited to this agri-tourism business forum that was run by PADI, which is an agriculture-based program I think, yeah, in Nandi, and we were given an opportunity where we met all these other businesses that are starting to prepare their goods and services for when the tourism market opens up again, because now the world is going to be moving to more fresh, organic
Yes.
products. And whilst we didn't really think of ourselves as an agri tourism business, like we kind of fall into there because we value add on an agriculture product. Um, and so maybe I should start off. So why ginger beer?
Yes.
So ginger beer is my go-to drink when I have a hangover. Don't drink, children. um, and unfortunately, you can only really readily available at the shops is Schweppes ginger ale, very highly carbonated, very high fructose and sugar. Um, and I just recall thinking to myself, like, this is so sweet. So you can also get Bundaberg, but at that point in time, it used to be about $5 a bottle. Um, and then so I said to myself, there's got to be something better than this. Like, I'm sure you can. So just lying on the couch on a Sunday once, and I just started to go through YouTube, and I came across some YouTube channels on how to make ginger beer. So I thought, yeah, I can do that. And yeah, so what we do is our company, we use a natural fermentation process. And so we ferment and then we ferment, and then we bottle. Um, and so I tried it, and boop, presto, I had ginger beer. And I was like, so I shared it with a few of my friends, and they were like, oh my gosh, this is so yum. You can really taste that it's fermented and it's naturally bubbly because of the fermentation. And we've got really, really like high quality ginger, Fijian ginger. Like we've got one of the best gingers in the world with its high fiber content, and so it's really easy to ferment our Fijian ginger, and it just adds so much flavor. Like you could just probably use like 5 of those fingers, and it's got a really hot gingery taste, and of which you don't get from natural ginger beer because they use like a ginger syrup, where this one is made from naturally brewed fresh Fijian ginger. Yeah, so and then through that sorry, I'm going to be jumping a bit here. Through that agri-tourism business, we were then invited to a food innovation show um, that had invited a few businesses that have started either pivoted their products or are value adding on agriculture products. And we were invited to the Australian High Commission, and up until then, I was only brewing at home. I had never. I was giving it to a few friends here, and then when are you going to do that? I was like, oh, you not got a day job. I've got, but we did it. We brewed 3 cartons, and we made 3 flavors for that night at the Australian High Commission. And I also got asked to speak, so it was kind of a soft launch. And yeah, it was absolutely, and it's kind of like one of those that you're thrown into the deep end. It's like, all right, you've got to do it. Like you've said that you're going to do it. You're on the program. They've started tweeting and putting it out on social media. You've got to do it. And so we brewed 3 flavors. So we had ginger lei molly, and then deliberately using Fijian names as well, ginger lei zomboy, and then one we're just calling a spicy ginger because it was to be honest, the brew had turned out hotter than I thought, and so and it was the one that I really what I call myself chief brewer. I wasn't really happy about, but it ended up being the hit that night. That one and the ginger lei zomboy. It's got a beautiful floral aftertaste, and yeah. And so all of this is self-taught. Like I'm a pure arts girl, a woman, and I didn't do science. I don't know temperatures. I don't know, but I've had to learn and to know when to pitch the sugar and when to see how much bubbles, and then you're measuring this so that you're not making too much alcohol, and you ferment it for this number of days, and then to make sure that the bottles won't pop or crack open, and then you're tasting in between to make sure that it's just right. And so it's been a wonderful journey, but we're still at the very early stages. Um, so when we got invited back for Australia Day at the Australian High Commission, that was an honor again. And we brewed again the same flavors. And that night, we're really proud to say that the Prime Minister just drank our ginger beer that night. And so I know him because I was in the military, and he was like, "What's this?" And I was like, "It's ginger beer." So he goes, "It's alcoholic." I said, "No." He goes, "You sure?" I said, "Yes, I'm sure." But he like whole night he'd had a glass of ginger ale, and so that was if there's any good marketing and feedback that you want. That was it when we got all these people drinking our product that night. So really blessed, Kai.
Wow, that is amazing. I just love the fact that you want to do something, you thought of something, and not just leaving it there to fly around here and not do. You did it. You went to the end of it and produced it yourself. And that is just a wonderful encouragement, particularly for young women who are listening in. Not only young women, young boys too, and there's lots of men watching too. Doon boleh Vinaka bikin din na turangan di mga rong chukumay. So must be the Kandavu label that attracted a lot of these male watchers. Boleh Vinaka na sa mamay. Boleh Vinaka limay, na matao Vinaka na sa mamay. But I think like how you said it, just do it. You're having that Nike slogan, just do it. So what was like maybe one major challenge for you, and how did you overcome it?
I think, for me, because I was starting from scratch, and everything is learned by what I read or what I watch through videos or on YouTube, and I'm just having to continuously, it's a trial and error. When you're brewing, it's a trial and error. And over time, through when we go and visit Lulu in Auckland or whatever trip I had to go for work, I was buying brewing equipment. So, and I'm lucky enough to be able to bring it back, and so I've got brewing buckets, and I've got testers, and I've got all of
Wow.
this equipment. So
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to have that equipment that then helped me. But one is understanding that the ginger here in the country, as my hand, you can see it's yellow. I make lime turmeric every morning, so my hands are yellow. And understanding the two types of ginger. So we've got the pink ginger, which is actually really in demand overseas, but it's a bit too floral. And then we've got the mature ginger, which I prefer to use, but at one point in the time, you couldn't get it at the market. And then last year, climate change has been really meddling with our weather. I mean, like for instance, just right now in Fiji, I think this is our first Bongiwalu.
Right. Bongiwalu.
In like just months. And ferment, where the first time I had ever brewed, the weather was perfect and it just took days to ferment. And so I was having to my partner said, you have to write everything down and take note. And so I was having to stretch things out longer. And but it's taught me on the environments that I need to keep this in, because it's a live culture, unlike a forced carbonation when you use gas. We're using a natural fermentation process. So all of this is a live culture that's growing, and it's eating the sugar, and then it's creating this bubbly, beautiful concoction that but if you leave it for too long, it turns into ginger beer with alcohol. If you just at the right time, then it's non-alcoholic ginger beer. So still learning. I just got in some equipment, some kegging equipment from Australia. And so because I own with my partner and I, and our business partner is Ilana Kaloni Singa. We all own the cafe at Ginger Kitchen at the museum. And so we have a place to dispense and sell our ginger lay from. So like everything is falling into place. God is good. Amen. And so I've brought in my equipment now, and I have to teach myself to keg. I've been doing bottles this whole time, so now I have to teach myself to keg, and then hopefully, we will get it right soon, and then people can come to the Ginger Kitchen and buy fresh Fijian ginger beer on tap. So that's the plan, Kai Naka.
Wow, man, that is so exciting. It just sounds so fun listening to you, because you said it's outside of your comfort zone. See, you're teaching us a lesson that you don't have to just do whatever you always like to do. So you can, jump out of your comfort zone and do something extremely different. And look, you're still alive
Absolutely.
today. You you better, you become a better person. You're turning yourself into an entrepreneur and also a person who does all this scientific stuff behind the scene. Wow, Sato Tokanjin. And if I can just touch on the ginger stuff. I remember, Kai, I was interviewing the board of the Tapioca Growers Association, and can't remember who of those gentlemen, Lavo, who talked about, the tapioca. They were talking about what makes Fiji different and unique. I think it must be Teto Tambaleka, one of the gentlemen, or John Sandy. Yeah, and they were talking about ginger, and they were saying that exactly what you said. The ginger is one of the most high quality, the best in the world, And
That's
to
right.
me, Kila, and I don't, I grew up in Zolisuba, as you know, Kai. We plant ginger too up there. I
That's
do the
right.
planting side, but I don't realize that at the end of the process, it benefits people like yourselves. And you're looking at the types of ginger and the quality of what you get out of it from that
That's right.
process. Yeah.
That's right. Because
Yeah.
Kai, with all of this farming that's happening, which is great. Like we have an export market, but we have a massive market here to value add in the country. A lot of what we make, we export overseas, and then they make extra money on top of what we've exported. They are value adding overseas, and then they making XYZ product. What we should be doing here is value adding in our own country, getting our own ginger and making products out of it. Ginger beer is just one. People can make ginger wine if they want. There's ginger lollies. We sell ginger lollies on the shelf, but it's made by an Australian company they import Fijian ginger. And
Wow.
when it's written on their packet that they import Fijian ginger, and then they make this product that is then sold back to us. But I was also very lucky at the Australian High Com to meet Ming Q. He's the largest ginger exporter in the country. And he had to try, and I knew who he was because when I was in government, he had opened up his $1 million factory, and I had done the documentary on it, and he takes a sip, and I was looking at him, and he goes, "Yep, it's got the ginger flavor. It's got good fermentation." He goes, "You use the old process." And for me, that kind of comment was everything. Like he probably tried it somehow, or using the fermentation product. And I was like, "Yes, Marita Millie, who runs Paddy, was saying, you talk to Kaming." And I was like, "Oh yeah, this is my card." And he goes, "This is my card." He goes, "You'll come to the factory and we'll have." And I was like, absolutely, because that's just a wealth of knowledge, on how ginger grows, and so that I understand as well, like the whole supply chain and where I sit on the value chain. And I also know a lot of this, how markets work, because I was really fortunate to work for another Australian aid program called the Market Development Facility. So I understand like how markets work, and the need to value add. Yes, I'm really quite blessed to be able to do this. But I think more Fijians should get into value adding. I think we should be turning our own products into products, and stop importation of fizzy drinks, and we should be making in country, because that's what the tourists want. The tourists want to come, and we have what it takes to create world-class flavors. With this digital world that we live in, all of this information is available at your fingertips, and there's so much assistance happening and constant workshops and online workshops and online forums that's happening for SMEs as we speak. And it's just a matter of like speaking. Call me up. I'm happy to share my email. How did I get from A to B? What process did I use? How easy was the process to set up a business? And then what did I see? Oh, I saw something on for Paddy, and they had this: write in if you would like to come to this workshop. We wrote in and we got invited. It was as simple as that. But the amount of people we met that are making Fijian sea salt, that are making what are this other guys that are all that were doing drinks with lemongrass with zomboy and making tea bags. It was just amazing, and it all started from an idea, Kai, just a simple idea that they said we watched a YouTube video and they did it. Just fantastic.
Look at that, right there.
Mm.
So, we know with YouTube, lots of us have access to it, and I think there's lots
Mm.
of things you can learn from it. And if you have the will to learn anything, then that's a place to go to start there. Yes, sa totoo sa na Domboy, eh? See, we only hear Domboy
Oh,
when
number
during
one.
our grandmother's time or Bumbo's
Mm.
time, but look at this.
That's right.
Wow.
That should be the welcome drink on arrival.
Wow. Great.
Fijian Zomboy iced tea. That would be the most delicious and cheap.
And good for you
Mm.
and healthy too.
And
Eh?
healthy for you. That's right.
Right, right
That's
there.
right.
It's good for the
Mm.
body. Din sarang na
Mm.
kay kutuko na kay nila kung mayroon na kay malangi. The first thing they ask for, na any special food or any drink unique in Lotoka, unique in Nandi, unique in Suva, unique in Fiji. We need to be
That's right.
looking at that. Sino ba kay?
That's right. That's right, Kai. That's right. And we need to be thinking of how we can value add, whether we're making more fresh fruit juices. We have a lot of wastage. When you go to the market, you see they're throwing away pineapples and they're saying, okay, what can you make with? So some people have gone into drying pineapples, and so they're now used as like snacks. And other people are doing other pineapple type candy, and people are using it more in confectionery, and it's these kind of value adding that you just gotta. And then attending some of these workshops and forums will then help you understand where you fit on this value chain, and how you can access the market. And it's not an easy journey. Of course, it's not. Nothing is easy. Nothing is given to you on a silver platter.
Yes.
But there's help around, and there's people that that
Yeah.
their companies and their NGOs that are in this space that are helping small businesses like ours. And what one of the things that drove us to do a naturally fermented ginger beer is because it's a probiotic drink. It's good for the gut. And Fiji has one of the highest NCDs in the world, per capita. And because our shelves are filled with sugary substandard
Yeah.
products, and as a result,
Din sarang yeah. Hmm. And we need to relook at all these products. So that's
and
a very interesting word, probiotic. Sandin.
probiotic. That's right.
Wow. So
Mm,
we are starting to think of what we put, to go into your body, particularly na kakan may
absolutely.
bula-bula, eh? Wow.
Kakanamembulubula, so that it also helps us telling like with our health. Juice Fiji came up with some wonderful products, and that's bottling fresh juice, getting it right, and now we're paying $13 for it. So it's a high end product, but absolutely that's value adding on locally available fruits in the market.
So totoo ka saranga. For the Talei province, Talanoa session, I invited Naita Panapasa, and Dona Kamakama. It was really nice, na mertulak may na Juice Fiji. Shake me to wake me. Shake me to
Mm,
wake me. Saya orto na turangan
mm,
Naita na nonroto reda na bimbi nimbula, to juice our food, take
continue.
things that are healthy, eh?
That's right.
Isa, hindi na saranga.
So so it goes back to that, like how we say, nakake de tekvunga mananggele, vuo
Yeah,
mananggele. So we have all of these resources at our fingertips. Everywhere else in the
yes.
world, they're paying 45 up to it's possibly $45 for like maybe like a kg or 2 kgs of turmeric. We're paying $1 at the local market. And turmeric is a high superfood, and all of this is at our fingertips. But it's not an easy journey to learn to value add. But I think there's a lot of successful
Stories. Di na Sara. Dina Sara. Dina Todoko. Yeah.
Pigeons around successful
Yes.
itoke that can help we managed to get and kevakakito sana Veitalanoa nga. I think there'll just be a wider group of people understanding these mechanisms, because at the beginning it's very overwhelming. Fill this form, fill this form, fill this form. But this budget, this government has opened up
Mm.
So now if you apply for your business license, you don't have to, sorry, that's your business registration. Certain business or can opportunities. Yeah, that's what I really like to encourage people.
Dina.
Mm.
Oh, Vinaka Saranga. Stop your internet buffered a little bit earlier on about when you're talking about the budget. Can you say that statement once
Sorry.
again about the budget and the support for those who want to do business? Mm. You were talking about the budget and the support for business or agriculture. We just lost you there a little bit about support for those who want to do agriculture related projects or business. Man, very interesting. Talanoa, for those of you who are joining us, Bulabinak Mbola, the Bulabinak Mena Middle East, Mena Tokalai Loma, Bulabinak Naita Kesa flank Perth, my Australia, iya, Bulabinak Naita. So there's a lot of you, Rudy, Tukana, thank you for the positive comments and feedback to Matalano with Talei about business and the words of encouragement from Talei. The last part we ended the Talei when you got off was to do with the budget. Can you say something again about the support for business? I know that's a very important point, which I think Talei will add on to. Bakambimbi na vito ko ni matin tubig kam ni na warong chumiviti doon din nakabina kaya wasya chukgo Talei na nona takabo ko na bisinisi ni ginger ginger lay sen na nona ginger beer. Ginger beer, it's non-alcoholic and it's good for you, boy, or good for you, good for your body. The marutak saranga ni may talno chumat weekend o Talei and na viva kung giti chuk weekend ay chuka na domboy chuka na ginger rap tali tung chuk mayo Talei redo kwa na sa wakaya ngata kana beka ngai tu na moli moli bita patoko bat kina na nambia kwe nakabati ko kwe balatini tukuna yao kwe na kena kwe nakabati ko Talei probiotic so probiotic can balimbale Vinaka na yang so it's I'm sure it's organic and it's also good for the body iyo the marutak saranga vakalevu na nona may biwa si chungo Talei ndagi wari ko tal chuma de bena sema mai ni seber ni sema tal mai naita kesa flank birds. Iyo, niyon sana yaro may nandi, sana wara kiko tuwen doon na ginger, si Dhomboy juice, and nandi. May Dhomboy nga may kandaw, si bata pa maramlita. Iyo, bula luda, iyo, Talei may NAQALOTU, doon Vinaka. Bula Vinaka jora tubo, bula meritike, mereani kebe, mutumbula Vinaka, iyo. Dawara ki Talei mena sema talemai no klabebe tatao balile na nona mona liba may yana buno sa chikumike may nasoba may asasana sese chikume na sese iyo daba Vinaka na Veitalanoa ni kuwa ni ngole may do ngone leo ni kandavu o Talei Tora ngone leo ni NAQALOTU na tikino Yawe may kandavu basta lang ay kandavu basto ilawaki na tinano Mother Tora the mara vakalevu ni may sema na wakanta ko Talei may tek muna chiko ko na Veitalanoa ni YASANA O KADAVU. Bula Vinaka karongila untuk bula Vinaka bula nina moreno. Ya salistan mengko Talei klasa na via puko talanggon na isiamo ni nona 1,000 Iya, da marata kan isa mitek putak ko na YASANA O KADAVU. Sana kay tiko tali sono ng tubula ni sarti ko go meron ng wali may mita may Veitalanoa. Na lomo ni bula kawa siya na bula siya ninrala. Da marata sara ni solito na ngayon weekend na nonon di bata-bata menda may dam da Veitalanoa the we will say yang ko salis talamin ko Talei. Welcome back Talei.
Peak hours. So what's up, sir?
Kunilenga isa. No worries. Yeah. Just go back to your budget. You were saying something there about the budget and the support for business and agriculture related activities. Go for it.
Sure, Kai. No, I was just saying. So the last year's budget was very pro SME or MSME, and it is again this year. The government is trying to open up access for MSMEs through loan facilities, removing certain restrictions. So, for instance, last year they removed the need to get a business license, so you could register your business. And if it fell into a certain type of business, you didn't need a business license. So you could straight away start making money with whatever you were selling. So I think Sonanguna, like, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So so I think when with all of these mechanisms, I think sometimes the onus is on us to understand some of these assistance that the government is giving some NGOs, and to Veitalanoa, like get into these forums, listening to forums like yours when you have Tapioca Association or other business people, learn, discuss ideas. If you're not sure, ask somebody else who might own a business, because the more we talk, the more we understand and the more we grow. And something that somebody else will know can help you, make a small step towards opening your business or doing something. Nakakai.
Sendi na saranga kandi na todo. Ko endora kambibia attend forums, learn from other people, ask questions, welcome new ideas, and do your own research. Endora ka utali takabitali, utali saranga elak saranga ko lita ka banana bandindike. First of all, she went on the YouTube channels and start looking at what's happening around the world and started to realize, hey, there's no ginger beer that is good for me. Lebu tali chiko na option ni chiko, chiko no ko sorry comida, lebu tali chiko na sukar chiko iloma. Nakabo tali is to look at something that is healthy, something that is locally produced, and we can support our own farmers. We support our local farmers to support our initiative. Sa to token din, right? Bamadal tak chiko tali. For the budget, it supports small, is it micro enterprises, SME.
That's right, okay. That's right. Yeah, MSMEs, yeah.
Right. Okay. Oh, Reza. So for those of you who are listening in and who are interested to do something similar, or maybe wanting to know the processes that Talei followed, make sure you send me a message or inbox Talei through Messenger. I'm sure she's there to help as well and support anyone's idea. If it's an idea and it's stuck in your head, it's still an idea. You have to do something about it, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So you have to be, in to win.
That's right. Absolutely, Kai. Just like how we say in NAQALOTU, you have to be in it to win it.
Vinaka, NAQALOTU. So some of our Tauhu here, I think they're kind of overwhelmed to hear the Kadavu language being heard tonight. So to all our Tauhu, please grab your dictionary and listen to me and Talei. Yeah. Yes. No, that's so encouraging, Talei, because that's exactly what I want to hear from you tonight. So before we conclude our Talanoa tonight, and I know you're working with the Ministry of Health, um, helping them through their comms division. Any word of advice or anything you want to say to our listeners, particularly with COVID-19?
Sorry, can you say that again, Kai?
Yeah, especially during this time, with your role as, helping out with the comms team at the Ministry of Health. And I know the situation in Fiji regarding COVID-19. Any words of advice or anything you want to say to that effect to our audience about safety and anything relating to COVID?
Vinaka, just a disclaimer first of all, I don't speak on behalf of the Ministry of Health.
Sure.
I'm only there as an advisor.
Mm,
Ministry
mm,
releases messages every day through statements and public awareness. COVID is so widespread in the Suvarnasori corridor right now.
so,
And the advice that is given is everybody is to treat somebody else as a primary contact, because it's so widespread and we don't know, um, who has COVID that's walking next to us. And
yes.
so currently, there are high risk groups that are the only ones that are being tested. And
I
so,
see.
the advice right now is please continue to wear a mask over your nose and that covers your nose and your mouth. Sanitize your hands or wash your hands for more than 20 seconds with soap and water if you can. Um, maintain physical distance of more than 2 meters. And all of this is because air droplets from the mouth or from the nose can travel if somebody sneezes or coughs. And it's so utterly important that if you do not need to leave your home, um, and if you do not need to go to work, if you do not need to go to the chemist or to visit a health facility, then please stay home. Everybody keeps calling for a lockdown, but we have the opportunity to lock ourselves down and our families because that's the safest option. It's not the easiest option because a lot of people still have to put food on their table, but the advice in the ministry from the Ministry of Health is asking that if people can stay home to please do so, and to practice COVID safe measures within their own families. And that
Mm,
one of the most important is, not to open your bubbles to other people. And that simply means that if you live in a home of 5 people, it's only those 5 people that are supposed to be at home.
ah,
You don't know where your neighbor has been, and if they come home, they could highly bring with them the virus and then infect your family, um, who then gets sick. It's been quite saddening to see as well, that a lot of people are dying at home, particularly our elderly. We are already a population with a very low number of old elderly people,
yes.
and we are losing them daily. Then you see the statistics, you see the numbers, you see the
Mm, mm, yes.
every day. They're in their 80s, they're in their 70s, and they're dying at home. If please, if you see that if they have a sore throat, to take them immediately to a health facility or health center. Trust our doctors and nurses who are there trying to do their best.
Yes. Tinasara. Mm,
Who are there, who can only do their best. If you take somebody
mm,
in or yourselves early, then they will be
Tinasara.
able to do the best that they can. They've
Right.
got the assistance from the Anzac Oz New Zealand Met, that have sent support through doctors and nurses that are helping set up our female hospital with the best, and we need to be able to trust the nurses and doctors that they know what they're doing, and their best intentions is to help people survive.
Sandin. Sabi nakabaliw kay nakabaliw na wasid bibakal gangataki
The later we
to
go is when there are more fatalities.
right. Yes,
And it's so sad that a lot of people are dying, and because of the restrictions, we aren't able to give them the send off we want, or that they deserve. And so please, do the right thing for your families, do the right thing for yourselves,
mm,
and
mm,
take our loved ones early, or take yourselves in early, so that the
mm,
doctors can give you a fighting chance.
right.
And just trust them, please.
Don Vinaka. Vinaka kay. Yes, thank you for your words of advice and reminders. So to conclude our Talanoa,
I'm just wondering if I have a delay on my end, Kai, if it's okay now.
oh, okay, set yo saga set go. Nakabaliw kay.
Are you
So
able to hear me, Kai, or have I
yeah, we
gone
can hear
offline
you.
again?
Yeah, we can still hear you. Don. Nakabaliw. Yes, to conclude our Talanoa today, anyone you wanna say hi to? Wambulamanda, Veso, Vira, anyone you want to thank or acknowledge tonight, you can say hello to them now.
Absolutely, and I don't know if they're watching on their way home, but just wanna say Fijiana and to the coaching staff FRU and Vinaka, what you've done for our people during the one of the most trying times in our history during this pandemic, for the frontliners, for the nurses and doctors, the army, the police, those that are at our checkpoints. You've given us hope, that we can see a light at the end of this tunnel,
Mm,
and we can't wait for the day that we can celebrate properly with you at Albert Park or at the National Stadium.
mm,
And I just want to also encourage people to get vaccinated.
mm,
Vaccination is our way out of this pandemic.
mm,
It's the safest protection for you and your family.
mm,
Um, and just want to thank you, Kai Level, for inviting me into your space and to share my story, my journey. It's an absolute honor, and I hope somehow, some way that I've encouraged somebody tonight, that I've uplifted them somehow in something that I've said, and I just thank you for this opportunity. Also, thank you to everyone that's tuned in tonight. Kai.
Vinaka, Sarah, Talei, for your words of encouragement. It was really fun talking to you, and just lovely to hear going down memory lane, acknowledging your mom and dad, and also your upbringing, especially to the words of encouragement through the Fijiana team. So I know they will be listening to our Talanoa session as well. So Vinaka for your support, as well as all your circles of friends who've always been there, particularly Naita Eva, Nancy Wunikura, who was the Fijiana captain a few years back, and she's a wonderful, positive supporter for all of us. She's known as the Hula Queen. So from rugby to hula, it's just amazing. This woman can do anything. She's from Ngau, from the village of Vione. Pinakabalevu Ngau, Vinaka Lomai, Vinaka Lomai Viti. So on that note, on behalf of everybody listening in tonight, Talei, Vinaka Vakalevu Kai, we're so proud of you, proud of the work that you do for
Thank you
our
so much.
people, the work you do for the region. So just want to acknowledge you and your two beautiful sisters. I know Luisa will be listening in too. All the best, Luisa, for your residency in Christchurch. So all the very best. Take care, Talei. Say hi to Yosh and your beautiful fur babies.
Thank you.
Manda.
Thank you. Mother, nakawalevu kay.
Yeah, so Vinaka kai, take care.
Naka.
Yeah, Naka
You too. Bye-bye.
Manda.
Thank you.
Naka.
Naka. Mother.
Mother. Isa nakawalib sarvi kim ni namarong chung menikua and na nero Veitalanoa kay Talei Tora kervi baso tingan di bebia nada buku balilay na wani bosa may viti via tao bakalilay unitaka ni Talei taka na Veitalanoa ni kua and buli kinele bunaka bosibi na nona buli nona takavaka wakatalanga kina na nona sa tigvutaka and na nona Bisinisi na ginger lane na ginger lane gona ginger beer non alcoholic kaya kau ni bengunuwa ni bitar na ginger cafe and na Fiji Museum bultik chukina na nona beer au kala talanga ni sa tik bultik be kana so na bisto na bisi biti ya da marutaka ni dona ngone leo ni biti ngone leo ni kandavu sasanga taka dona kae bakasam tak tonga ko yan tanda buto ko balin dona singa sama ni bakasam tak mendera kamu takaba ni dona simba kamena ngunu do mus na ulungu gado ngunu chiko ko na bimba tanggali ngunu teleso sanga bina kato ko men dona ngunu me takaba nga ko sanga la ko bina YouTube sanga rede kina sanga takaba me davungo sa tika buta ko yan dona nona business na ginger le na Talei Taki enterprise da maro taksar vakalevu ni rau Talei me takabaya kaya baka rau Talei na rau talanga weekend na bakarong tiku meni ko ke kiko na kanta kangandakin sa rau mi ngunu domboy sa rau mi ngunu bu sa rau mi ngunu moli sa rau ngunu na view na beka ke de tungo tungai vici ko kaba madal takachika o Talei endona do tite andona Bisinisi do nakajinja chiksar mo Australia lakatal mo ko vici may bulia na jinja kote Australia lai zakaba may na jinja loli gay buli takatal mo ko weekend sagi tunchung ko Talei bakadaba me tatakatakatakangan na jinja ko ete ngay viti kaya nirto lebi derto yalon dina merto takam so na business bangko saro sarangani dak ngay viti na gay buli takngauken saro sarangani kuri ni non the export na tanda baka pertanya na buku ni rawi labu ni nonton matin toto kan jina enda gari tango so na ngone ngai toke ngone ngani biti era sulitu non rangauna kena non rakila merongole mai wasea na be karo satava na buku ni non rasasana au litaka ni Talei taka baka oti na vinge talanoa na sigini kua marutaka ni samitik butaka Talei Tora ngone leo ni NAQALOTU Yawe me kandavu vasu lawaki nakaseleka me kandavu da maruta ka vakalevu ni ngole ma Talei da mai Veitalanoa da mai viwasei so na kame tukuno ko da bulikina ngai ochi me kana covid tin kaliongo saro ni so na business bobo era ni sara sudumai ena buku di Veitalanoa na kabina ko Vinaka vakalevu sara bulu Vinaka choni tingali dalo Vinatau bulu Vinaka blow blow a terra mur bulu Vinaka na viotini Vinaka vakalevu nanto siamo chukumai ena nantu singa ni Veitalanoa ena nungui bata mutumbula Vinaka bulu Vinaka meliki bulu Vinaka ludha meliki lolom sarvali Vinana au klani to sar chikumai lotoka lolom saratu vale wa nitikina ninto nangauna au nangai da wirati vici nangali sota ya te bulu Vinaka Vinaka vakalevu sara vakambauta loloma luke na isila bola harieta bola tinai lemba Melton Vinaka vakalevu lemba tinai Melton tombula Vinaka may makoi manako saka vakalevu na siya mo chikumay na Veitalanoa alom saratu vakalevu ikem tototok may vale nitaka ni do bulu Vinaka chiko ikem ni katsar na bakarong may nikua au saba kamo ito chika ni ikem ni katsara randini kas ni buli matilita na kau Vinaka vakalevu na siya mamay Charlotte Sandreo bulu Vinaka na siya mamay saba kamo ito chika ni ikem ni and talaga isota tali na singlo tulevu and ang walit kumikin ito na dorwoni na sengay may kandavu na may Veitalanoa ito kinabula kaya ngo sa chiko na nento bulan yung may sarva turang kandavu meron may bulang may dikenda na bunga sar na ulutanga Vinaka o ni na Talei taka na marutaka bata kaya ni limunaka na bulit Vinaka vakalevu sa vakumadan may Hawaii pakunino Vinaka tukani bikim ni toto kusara singa tambuchik ke au klasa singa moniti ko may serne may biti kana bese burubura taleso au sa vakumadani ni mode manda mode pau wanga mode keleliku Vinaka vakalevu